Your Excellency Ambassador Omar Zniber of Morocco and President of the Human Rights Council, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for inviting me to be part of this discussion and for letting me share this message since I could not join you in person. Climate security, food security, and health security are vital for people to live lives of dignity and freedom. That's why they deserve to be looked at within the Human Rights Council. So I commend all of you, and especially the Council President, Ambassador Zniber, for taking this conversation further. There are often misconceptions that trade and the WTO are against human rights, labor rights, and so forth. But this is not the case. In fact, the WTO's purpose, as set out in the preamble to our founding Marrakesh Agreement, is to use trade as a means to raise living standards, create jobs, and promote sustainable development. The WTO is fundamentally about people. Over the past 30 years, trade has fueled faster growth in both developing and developed countries and helped lift over 1.5 billion people out of extreme poverty. Trade has thus been a powerful tool for expanding freedom from want and for liberating people from the terrible choices that poverty imposes. Choices between shelter and schooling, between whether to buy food for your children or take them to the doctor. Zooming in on the priorities Ambassador Zniber identified, climate change, food security, and health security, trade is an indispensable part of addressing all three. From Brazil to Spain and India to Cote d'Ivoire, floods, fire, hail, and heat remind us that if getting to net zero feels daunting, the economic and humanitarian costs of not getting there will be even worse. Global competition and supply chains have already advanced the low carbon transition by helping to reduce the cost of renewable energy. Trade remains essential for access to green technology, and there is scope to do much more to lower tariffs and reform policies to encourage trade in green goods. We can further bolster the pursuit of net zero by leveraging green comparative advantages. If countries specialize in producing goods and services they are relatively green at and trade with each other, the result is much deeper global emissions reductions. Phasing out fossil fuels and trade distorting agricultural subsidies and cooperating on trade policy issues such as green subsidies and decarbonization standards would help us pursue net zero while preventing trade from getting bogged down in a thicket of retaliatory barriers. Food security, meanwhile, is impossible without trade. It used to be that 1 in 5 calories produced worldwide were traded. Now it is around 1 in 4. Trade is a key mechanism to make food available where it is scarce and to cushion the impacts of local supply shocks. Incomes matter for people to afford adequate and nutritious food. And as I said earlier, trade helps on that front too. 2 years ago at the WTO's 12th Ministerial Conference, WTO members agreed to exempt the World Food Programme's humanitarian purchases from export restrictions, making it easier for the agency to get food to people in crisis. But governments can do more to lower trade restrictions on food and farm goods and improve how markets function. Updating the WTO Agricultural Rulebook would support food systems transformation and contribute to the realization of the right to food. Finally, trade demonstrated its value for health and human security during the COVID-19 pandemic. After some early disruptions, trade swiftly became a vital means for ramping up the production of and access to desperately needed supplies, from face masks and respirators to eventually vaccines. Vaccine inequity was deplorable, and the WTO acted to introduce more flexibilities in our intellectual property agreement to make it easier for developing countries to manufacture vaccines. Nevertheless, without supply chains cutting across 19 countries, possibly more, manufacturing billions of vaccine doses would have been even harder, even impossible. Shortages would have been worse, and so would have been the inequities, loss of lives, and economic damage. To prepare for the next crisis, we must diversify pharmaceutical production across more regions, especially in Africa, and foster smooth and resilient supply chains. All members depend on trade for access to medicines. We will need more trade, not less, within regions and around the world. Excellencies, let me now conclude. Trade is part of the solution for climate action, food security, and health security. As you work to find a path to enhance the enjoyment of human rights, I urge you to make full use of trade as a powerful tool to pursue these goals. I wish you the very best for your discussions today and for the rest of this session of the Human Rights Council. Thank you.